Hey everybody, it's Judy Klock here at Stamping with Crafty Clock. I'm trying once again to use the StreamYard where I can have both myself and my desk on the video. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my desktop into the stream. And then I'm going to kind of swap it around. And there we go. All right, I think we're ready to start. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope that you are all having a good evening. Today I'm working with the Tea Boutique, the Cup of Tea and stamp set and dies and the beautiful Tea Boutique designer series paper. Now, if you caught my lesson at lunch on Tuesday, you would see that I did a fun little fun fold card. Again, using the Tea Boutique product suite. And we're going to continue that theme today. And we're going to create two cards. As usual, we're going to do our simple stamping card that we're just going to use some stamps, inks, and paper. And I think this is one that anybody can do. A beginning stamper can certainly do this one. And then we're going to step it up a bit. And we're going to do another fun fold or fancy fold. We're going to add some die cuts. Got a little bit of Wink of Stella there. And we're going to create another card using our Tea Boutique products. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. If you're watching here tonight, like I said, I'm using a new system. So please go ahead and leave me some comments. Let me know that you're watching. If you are new here, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from. And if you're watching this on replay, please go ahead and put hashtag replay. All right, so for our simple stamping card, we're going to use some fresh freesia. It is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4.25. I have a piece of our basic white that is 4 by 5.25. I have a piece of the Tea Boutique DSP that is 4 by 5.25. And I punched a label of basic white with our, I think it's Label Me Fancy punch. Okay. So again, this is going to be really, really simple. We're going to make a thank you card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my basic white. I'm going to attach that to the inside of my card base. And I'm wearing a sweater in case you're wondering because it is freezing in my basement. It's comfortable on the first floor, but the basement is a little bit chillier. All right, we're just going to go ahead and put this in. And if you wanted to decorate that, you certainly could. I like to have a lot of room to write a thank you note, so I'm just going to leave that blank. I'm going to go ahead and put my designer series paper on the front. And again, I caution you, remember, if you're using a pattern that has a one-way design, make sure you cut it the right way because we're doing the card in landscape, so I had to make sure that I cut my DSP in the landscape mode. So just remember that when you're going to cut because heaven knows I have cut my DSP going the wrong way. So we've all done it. All right. Okay, how pretty is that paper though? Isn't that pretty? Now I'm going to stamp just a very simple little thank you. Let me get my stamp out. It's the only one I don't think I have on a block. And we're going to stamp that in our fresh freesia. Okay, I'm just going to stamp a thank you. Now, sometimes I like to add a little bit of color to the edge. So if you have a dauber, you could certainly use your dauber to add some color. If you don't have a dauber, you could just sort of very gently roll the edge of your die cut or your punched piece just right in the ink pad itself. And that will add just a little tinge of color to the edge. So that's a little tip. Now I'm going to go ahead and going to cut a piece of our fresh freesia sheer ribbon. This was a carryover from our annual catalog. I love this ribbon. It's just such a pretty ribbon and it ties so beautifully. It just lays so nicely. I'm going to lay some, excuse me, some adhesive on the back of my label. And I'm just going to position my ribbon how I think I want it and just kind of stick it to the back of that label. Okay. Now I'm just going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals to the back of this. And I'm going to actually kind of put it also maybe on that ribbon, just kind of help hold that in place. All right, I'm going to put on 4. And now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to add this right to our card. And there is our first card. That is a simple stamping card. It's nothing more than stamps, inks, and paper. And we added just a little tiny bit of ribbon there. Okay, so that was our first card. Now for our next card, we're going to need a couple of different pieces of paper. So we're going to need a piece of cardstock. I have Sweet Sorbet here that is 4 by 11. We want to score this at 2 inches, at 3 3/4, at 7 1/4, and at 9. Okay. Then we have a piece here of our Starry Sky that is our standard 5.5 by 4.5. Sorry, 5.5 by 4 1/4. Okay, and then we're going to cut a piece of basic white that is 3 1/4 by 3 3/4. We're going to have a couple of scraps of basic white for some die cuts. We're going to die cut a little tea bag label and a teacup. Then we're going to have another couple of pieces of our Starry Sky. These are 3 3/4 by 1 3/4. We need 2 to go on the ends. We have 2 more pieces of Starry Sky that are 1 1/2 by 3 3/4. Then we've got 2 pieces of DSP that are 3 1/2 by 1 1/2. Another couple of pieces that are 3 1/2 by 1 1/4. And then we've got 2 pieces here that are 1 inch by 4 inches. And those are going to sit right out there on our Starry Sky. All right, so let's go ahead. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my stamping. I'm going to get my stamping out of the way now that we have all of our pieces. So on the inside, I'm going to stamp just a little sentiment that says, take care of yourself. We're going to stamp this in our Starry Sky. Okay. Now I'm going to stamp a teacup. Oops, I still want that there. All right, so I still want my teacup. And then I want a little tiny tea bag label. And I'm going to stamp that in our Parakeet Party, just to bring in that other color from our gorgeous designer series paper. Okay, let me see if I can do this one over here. And we'll do it right there. Okay. So before we die cut these two, because we're going to have to die cut those, I want to show you a little trick, because if you look on my sample card, excuse me, if you look on my sample card, you'll see that my teacup isn't white. It's got a little bit of a pink tinge to it. I took our Sweet Sorbet and I took a blending brush. So I wanted to get just a little bit of color on there because I didn't want it to be so stark white. So I just took a little bit, and I'm going to kind of start over here to get most of the color off. I don't like stamping off. And I'm just going to kind of rub it over my image. So that adds just a little bit of color to our image. Then if you want, you can take one of our Stampin' Band marker, a Stampin' Band marker, And if you want, you can go ahead and just color in all these little leaves. Okay, you don't have to do that, but you can. I think it'll be fun to do that. Okay, but if you ever want to just add a little bit of color to your basic white or any color cardstock, really, just take your blending brush and go ahead and let that just add a little bit of color. You know, I would kind of, like I did over here, I'd kind of rub it off on some scrap paper first because it can be very dark. And sometimes you don't want it that dark. You just want a little bit of a hint of color. Or you could build up the color. You could start lighter and then go darker if you want to create like an ombre effect. So it really just depends upon what you want to do. All right. The coloring is very therapeutic. I like coloring sometimes. I like coloring better than I like fussy cutting. All right. So now we've got that. Now I'm going to pull in my little mini stamp cut and emboss. I'm going to get out my dies that I need. I'm like, where's my teacup die? Gotta love a little mini. The one thing I wish they would make a magnetic plate for the mini. I know they make the magnetic plate for the full size stamp cut and emboss, but I really would love a magnetic plate for the mini. Let me see. I don't know if I can get both of these on one, but we're going to try. Because we only got a little tiny piece here. Let's see if we can send these both through at the same time. All right. Normally I don't do a lot of die cutting on my lives, but these are just two little tiny pieces, and I thought we'd be okay with it. There we go. I'm sure the table will shake just a little bit, so bear with me. I'm trying to go slow so it doesn't shake too badly. All right. There we go. Okay. You can always tell when it releases. You get that little spring back action. Okay. Just put away my, look at how little this die is. I want to make sure I put it away before I lose it. So if you want, I'm using the teacup cup of tea set for my June workshop, and there is just one more spot left. So if you were interested in registering, sign up like soon. And you can still get early bird pricing through Sunday. So make sure you sign up for that last spot. Well, and this time we'll be making 10 cards because we're using the Tea Boutique cards and envelopes. So you're making 2 of each of the new in colors. All right, so now that we've got all of our pieces kind of cut, let's begin assembling our cards. We're going to take our bigger pieces of designer series paper and our cardstock, and we're going to just adhere these to each other. Okay, and I just love the way this Sweet Sorbet and Starry Sky work together. I thought it was a pretty combination. But, you know, there are so many pretty combinations with these new colors. I love Tahitian Tide and Parakeet Party. I love Orchid Oasis with Fresh Freesia. Gosh, there's just so many pretty combinations we can have. All right. We're just going to go ahead and just line up all of these. Hi, Maureen. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. All right, and we're going to put this DSP on the other pieces of our Starry Sky cardstock. All right. Everybody ready for the nice 3-day weekend coming up? I know I am. Next week's a short work week, 4 days. You gotta love that. And I guess the new federal holiday is now Juneteenth. So I guess all the feds are going to be getting June 20th off because Juneteenth falls on a Sunday. So yay for holidays. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add these. So the larger pieces go in the outer sections and the smaller pieces go on the inner section. And then we're going to put our basic white on that big middle section. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to start putting all of these together. All right. All right. Just going to work our way just across the card. So again, it's a pretty easy card. Other than the die cuts, it's really just a lot of straight cuts on your trimmer, but it's how you fold it and makes it look fancy. And it's really, I mean, it's not difficult, but people are going to look at it and be like, wow. I love when you can get the wow factor and you know that it wasn't that hard to make, but people are just so impressed. So, I don't know about you, but I don't have like hours to spend laboring on a card. I like to get my cards done and in the mail. So if you're a card maker, make sure you send those cards. They bring a smile to everybody's. And I think today, in this day and age, I really think everybody could use an extra smile or two. I think we need to be kinder to each other. All right. So now we've got that. So now we're going to fold it. These get folded in and these get folded out. So these become like mountain folds and this becomes a valley fold. Okay. Now we're going to finish up our card base. We have these 2 pieces of designer series paper. We're going to stick those on each end, and then that's going to go right in the middle. So just a little bit of this will show, but that's okay. I wanted to add a little bit of something to that outside edge of the card. I didn't want it to be so blah and bland. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that there. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. There we go. All right. Now we're going to go ahead. Now we're ready to put this in. So I'm just going to put some seal. Now make sure you only put it on this big middle section. Don't put anything on these 2 outer panels. Okay, so just our big middle section is going to get our adhesive. That's the only part that we want to stick down. We want those other panels to be able to sort of free float. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. It's actually going to go over it's going to come right up to the edge of that designer series paper. Okay, now how cute is that, right? And then we have our little teacup here, and I want to put a little bit of our baker's twine to have that come out of the teacup. So I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of here. Okay. Yikes, everything is getting stuck to my fingers. Okay, I'm going to cut that. I don't know, maybe like 2 inches. You don't need that much. I'll probably cut too much, but that's all right. So now I'm going to put some adhesive back here. Now make sure we're only going to adhere this on the left side. So make sure to keep all your adhesive in like that upper left corner so it doesn't get stuck to the other side. I'm just going to put a little bit of this coming over. Okay. Now it's okay if I have a little bit extra because we're going to have that, that T label is going to get put on with a dimensional also. Trim that up so it doesn't come out besides my teacup. All right. Now I'm ready to go ahead and put some. I'm going to put a dimensional right over here. And then I'm going to use some of these edge pieces because I just need a little skinny bit there. So I'm just going to cut some of these edge pieces. Because again, I don't want it to hang over onto the other portion of the card. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to put another little piece here. And then we're going to put a piece on our tea bag. Okay. So now I'm going to close this up. I am going to adhere that. Okay, and I got my little label. You can put it wherever you want. I'm just going to kind of put it, I don't know, maybe like right there in the middle of my cup. Okay, and then if you want to add just a little bit of sparkle, you can go ahead and take some Wink of Stella. Remember, always try your Wink of Stella not on your project because I have ruined projects by getting globs of Wink of Stella on it. Kind of like that just came out. So that's kind of what I was talking about. I actually started it on my scrap paper. I can smooth that out a little bit. Okay. So you got a little bit of sparkle with your teacup. And that is our second project. That is our fancy fold. Again, really just a simple couple of score lines and folds, and just really the designer series paper, and just putting it on that solid card base, the standard side card base. It really looks like you fussed, and you saw it took us what, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. So those are our two cards for tonight. We have our simple stamping card, and we have our more avid card or more intricate card with a couple of die cuts, lots of folds and score lines, and some designer series paper. That's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this session of Stamping with Crafty Klock. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate all your support. Have a great 3-day weekend. Enjoy the time off. I hope you get to spend it doing something fun. And if you do craft, make sure you post pictures to show us all what you're working on. That's it, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.